If there was a brochure for the American dream, it could look like this. A nice house with a white picket fence. But in today's America, many people will tell you having your own place to rent or own is far from reality. This week, we're looking at the state of housing in America.
There's just really nowhere for people to live.
From how old motels could be a new solution for homelessness to what you can expect the White House to do to help with housing costs.
$1 million gets you this?
You'd be lucky. Yes.
This is The Race. What it takes to buy a house doesn't come overnight. You have to build up credit, you have to save up enough money. It's very difficult, and many of us know just how hard the home buying process is right now. But if you're someone who lost everything to a natural disaster, it can be nearly impossible. And that's why we came here to Chico, California, where hundreds of people in this community who lost everything to a wildfire nearly 4 years ago are still struggling to find a place to live. We're driving through Paradise, California to see what it looks like almost 4 years after a fire destroyed this town. You might be surprised to know that hundreds of people who once lived here, who lost everything in that 2018 fire, are still looking for a place to live.
Had you ever been to Paradise?
No.
Everybody was just so wonderful. I've lived there 33, 34 years.
As I sat with Tammy Huerta, she asked if she could read me something she wrote.
Okay, it'll take a minute.
Please.
Okay. On the morning of November 8, 2018, I thought that if the fire started coming our way, I would grab my dogs and run to Clark Road.
The story of how she escaped the campfire.
And I told God, I don't want to die like this, and I don't want this to be my last day on earth.
Not only does she want you to know how she survived, but how she and many others who were displaced nearly 4 years ago are still struggling today.
People that are still without housing, we need help.
Tammy is now in Chico, about 20 minutes from Paradise. The fire took almost everything she owned.
For 6 months, I couldn't see, I didn't want to look at Paradise.
She says as a house cleaner, she can't afford to buy or rent her own place. The median price for a home here is $484,000. The average one-bedroom apartment rents for more than $1,500 a month.
So this is where some people are allowed to stay. The people who are still needing help now are the ones that didn't have the insurance. They were renters typically. If they were homeowners, they were underinsured or didn't have insurance to rebuild.
Jessica Gianola is helping Tammy through the nonprofit Chico Housing Action Team, or CHAT. She says she has more than 300 applications from campfire survivors who can't find a permanent place to live.
We need rent lower, so that we can get into a place and get back on our feet again, working and bringing in more income.
The impact of natural disasters on housing isn't just a problem here. According to CoreLogic, a top data company, last year, 1 in 10 homes across the country was impacted by a natural disaster. And displacement isn't an easy problem to fix. Just take North Carolina, which in May announced $16 million in grants will go to help those still feeling the impact of 2018's Hurricane Florence and 2016's Hurricane Matthew.
Over here is where a lot of people were camping.
Jessica says affordable housing was an issue in Chico before 2018, but it's different today. She drove us to where she's found people living in tents who, before the fire, were never on the path to homelessness.
These people's lives and their professions, the things they've done, the people they've helped, and here they're left with nothing.
Tammy is currently sharing a home CHAT owns with other campfire survivors. What's your path forward? What are you hoping to do now?
I want to get back into Paradise. That's my home, that's my heart.
But with the typical home price in the town almost $70,000 more today than it was before the fire, it may be too expensive for her to ever go home.
When you look at our nation's affordable housing crisis, the answer to it is simple in theory, right? And that's more affordable housing. But something that's always traditionally stood in the way of that is stigma and neighbor opposition. Well, there is absolutely nothing traditional about what's happening in the housing market right now, and some mindsets seem to be changing.
My name's Sean Caswell. I'm the general manager of Casablanca and Texas Club, a few staples here in Reynosa, New Mexico. As simple as I can put it, it's just simple living.
There's a lot to love about this sleepy mountain town, but life the last few years has been anything but simple for the service industry here.
After the pandemic hit, I mean, it was like, where did everybody go? Everything's short-term rentals, Airbnb. It's tough living for, the backbone of this economy, which is our, local workforce.
Just like everywhere in the United States, we're severely handicapped when it comes to workforce, and one of the biggest contributing factors to that is housing.
It's a similar story in tourism-driven places across the nation. But the hardships this town is facing may be able to change mindsets that were once against the idea of affordable housing.
So that fire just spread to one of our areas, Gavilan Canyon, which is heavily populated with our employees.
In April, a wildfire wiped out about 200 homes in the area and kicked off a scramble for affordable housing. It created the need to reevaluate zoning laws to allow more people to live on less land.
Community's always been 100% for it until you pick a spot. And then it's, well, no, you can't do this, we don't want you to do that.
Changing neighbors' minds about affordable housing is one of the biggest hurdles to its creation. A 2019 Redfin study showed that home buyers and sellers nationwide are nearly twice as likely to oppose housing density in their neighborhood than they are to support it, and more than half support zoning policies that limit density. 27% support it. The National Low-Income Housing Coalition guesses that the country is short 7 million rental homes for low-income renters. That's about 1 in 4 of all rental households nationwide.
And a lot of it is the narrative that's been put out. The people that live there are being brought in from outside the community.
The data, though, disproves the stigma. The National Low-Income Housing Coalition says building 100 affordable housing units generates $11.7 million in local income, $2.2 million in taxes, and 161 local jobs in the first year alone.
What this fire has done and the devastation is put faces. These are some of our firemen that have lost their homes. These are people that work at the hospital. These are people that work at our restaurants.
The village is working on several solutions, including an enterprise fund for housing, tax credits, and building modular homes. Crawford says this is all possible because the state and local governments, as well as the community, are all working together for this goal.
Some of the doors are opening and cracks are showing, and we're running through those. And those people are working with us.
We need it. Desperately.
For business folks like Chan, he hopes more communities change their perspective on affordable housing, so it can be seen not as a nuisance, but a necessity way before a disaster shows them that.
Hopefully, we can get a change of hearts and minds as far as that goes, because, it's your bartender, it's your cook. Those are the people that are living in those homes.
I'm Vanessa Mishanya.
Just off of highways across this country, you will find abandoned old motels that once represented the golden age of the road trip. The plan turning those motels of the past into housing of the future.
Now it's like, yes, it's going to be all right. That's the biggest thing. It's going to be all right.
You're watching The Race.